It all starts with a single step. Simple, almost mundane. But beneath that calm exterior, something extraordinary begins to unfold. Scientists often describe walking as the silent switch, because when your foot hits the ground, dozens of biological systems suddenly come alive. Your body doesn't wait. It reacts instantly, preparing itself for movement and energy demand in ways most people never notice. As you take those early steps, your muscles send biochemical signals to your brain, demanding fresh energy. This request is subtle but urgent, triggering your cardiovascular system to rise from its resting state. Your heart rate ticks upward, breathing deepens, and blood flow intensifies toward the working muscles. It feels gentle, but it is, in truth, the beginning of a metabolic awakening. Your body's chemistry shifts almost immediately, increasing the production of ATP, the energy molecule every cell depends on. To support this, enzymes linked to fat and glucose metabolism start mobilizing resources, searching for quick fuel. You may not feel anything dramatic yet, but the transformation is happening under the surface. And perhaps the most curious part is how quickly the body commits to this activity. Even within the first minute, your physiology begins adapting for efficiency. Muscles grow more responsive, energy pathways light up, and your internal engine quietly prepares for a deeper metabolic shift that happens only after sustained walking. And yes, you'll understand why this shift matters so much later in this video. The moment you begin walking, your body enters what scientists call an acute activity response. This is the first spark, when your system transitions from rest to movement. Initially, your cells rely on the quickest energy source available, glucose stored in your bloodstream and muscles. This ensures your body can meet the immediate energy demands without delay. Within minutes, hormonal changes begin. Adrenaline rises slightly, not enough to make you feel stressed, but just enough to elevate alertness and readiness. This small hormonal shift helps your body mobilize stored fuels more efficiently. It signals tissues throughout the body to prepare for a potential increase in activity, even if you're merely strolling down the street. Meanwhile, your muscles begin consuming oxygen at a higher rate, prompting your lungs to take deeper breaths automatically. This is the moment your metabolism starts ramping up, increasing calorie expenditure almost instantly. The body loves efficiency, and walking is one of the easiest ways to coax metabolism into a higher gear without overwhelming it. And here's the fascinating part. Even though you may feel relaxed during a walk, your cells are operating in a completely different rhythm. They're beginning to open the door to fat-burning pathways that become more dominant the longer you stay in motion. Stick around, because the transition from sugar to fat is one of the most intriguing metabolic shifts in human physiology. Fat cells, adipocytes, are often misunderstood. They're not passive storage bags, they're highly active endocrine organs. When you begin walking, fat cells receive hormonal and neurological signals that movement is happening and energy demand is rising. This signal alone begins altering their behavior before any fat burning truly begins. As your muscles warm up, they release myokines, tiny signaling proteins that communicate directly with fat tissue. These myokines essentially tell fat cells, prepare yourself, the body may need stored fuel soon. This preparation stage is crucial because it primes fat cells for lipolysis, the process of breaking down stored triglycerides into usable energy molecules.
Insulin levels also begin to shift during a walk. Because your muscles are taking up more glucose without needing insulin's help, overall insulin concentration tends to drop. This is important because lower insulin levels remove one of the major locks that prevent fat cells from releasing stored fat. In other words, your body gradually moves into a state that favors fat mobilization. Inside each fat cell, triglycerides sit tightly packed like tiny droplets of energy-rich oil. When the body begins asking for extra fuel, enzymes such as hormone-sensitive lipase awaken. This marks the first step of lipolysis, the breakdown of fat. But lipolysis doesn't start at full speed. It begins gently, then accelerates as the body maintains movement.
The moment the signal is received, triglycerides break apart into 3 fatty acids and 1 glycerol molecule. These fragments are then released into the bloodstream where they hitch a ride on transport proteins. This is the moment fat officially leaves the cell. Even though the process is microscopic, the impact is monumental. This is how fat cells begin to shrink. Muscles eagerly absorb these fatty acids. Unlike glucose, which must be carefully regulated, fatty acids flow more freely into the muscular mitochondria. Once inside, they enter a complex metabolic highway known as beta oxidation. This is where your body begins converting stored fat directly into usable energy. It is slow, steady, and remarkably efficient. The beauty of walking is that it optimizes this entire process. Unlike high-intensity exercise, which demands rapid glucose, walking allows fat to be the star of the show. It gives your body enough time to activate, transport, and oxidize fat without overwhelming your system. And as we'll uncover, what happens inside the mitochondria is nothing short of a biological marvel. Mitochondria are often called the powerhouses of the cell, but scientists now regard them as far more sophisticated than simple energy factories. When you walk, your mitochondria become the center of metabolic transformation. They ramp up their oxygen use, increase ATP production, and begin breaking down fatty acids with incredible precision. As fatty acids enter the mitochondria, they pass through a series of reactions that liberate energy. This process not only powers your muscles, but also generates metabolic signals that improve mitochondrial function over time. In fact, regular walking encourages your cells to create more mitochondria, an adaptation known as mitochondrial biogenesis. More mitochondria mean better endurance and a faster metabolism. But perhaps the most exciting discovery in recent scientific studies is that mitochondria communicate with other cells during exercise. They influence inflammation, hormone sensitivity, and even aging processes. By walking just 30 minutes a day, you're not merely burning calories, you're enhancing a cellular network that shapes your long-term health in profound ways. Scientists have long searched for the sweet spot where the body transitions from warming up to meaningful metabolic change, and 30 minutes consistently emerges as that threshold. During the first few minutes of walking, your body relies more on quick-access glucose. But as you continue, metabolic pathways shift toward a more sustainable rhythm, one better suited for fat oxidation. This shift does not happen instantly, it happens progressively, and 30 minutes is where it becomes fully established. By the time you reach this mark, several hormonal changes align. Insulin levels stabilize downward. Adrenaline rises just enough to support fat mobilization, and glucagon begins guiding your body towards stored energy. These hormonal adjustments work together, creating the perfect environment for fat cells to release their stored contents. The longer your body maintains this environment, the more consistently fat can be used as fuel.
30 minutes is also the point where oxygen consumption reaches a steady state. This matters because fat oxidation requires oxygen, and achieving a stable oxygen uptake allows your cells to operate efficiently without rushing. High-intensity exercises rarely reach this fat-focused state because their oxygen demand spikes far too quickly, forcing the body back toward glucose. Walking, however, allows the oxygen-fat partnership to thrive. This is why 30 minutes is not just a random number, it is a metabolic milestone. At this point in your walk, your body is no longer testing or preparing for activity. It is fully engaged in fat oxidation, energy conservation, and internal recalibration. And as you'll soon see, this marks the moment the body shifts from simply burning energy to transforming itself at the cellular level. In the early phase of any movement, glucose is the preferred fuel because it is fast and easy to metabolize. But as your walk progresses, your muscles begin to deplete their immediate glucose stores. Instead of treating this as a problem, your body views it as an opportunity. This gradual decline in available glucose encourages your metabolism to transition toward fatty acids, signaling a shift from short-term fuel to long-term energy reserves. This metabolic switch is orchestrated by changes in enzymes and hormones. Enzymes responsible for glucose breakdown step back, while those involved in fat oxidation become more active. Hormonal signals, such as lower insulin and slightly elevated glucagon, support this transition. For many people, this shift is subtle. They often don't feel a dramatic difference, yet internally it marks one of the most crucial steps in sustained fat burning. The magic lies in consistency. The more frequently your body performs this sugar-to-fat shift, the more efficient it becomes. Over time, your metabolism learns to rely on fat more readily, meaning you burn more fat not only during walks, but even at rest. This is one of the reasons people who walk daily often report feeling more energetic, lighter, and mentally sharper. Before we continue, comment below. Did you already know that most of the fat you lose leaves your body through your breath? Tell me your answer. I'm curious. When fatty acids reach the mitochondria, the transformation that follows is nothing short of astonishing. They undergo beta oxidation, a step-by-step biochemical process that gradually strips away fragments of the fatty acid molecule, releasing energy at each stage. This energy powers everything from muscle contractions to cellular maintenance, turning stored fat into usable life force. Each fragment produced during beta oxidation enters the Krebs cycle, another metabolic pathway that extracts even more energy. This is where fatty acids outshine glucose. They yield significantly more ATP per molecule, making them an incredibly rich energy source. In essence, walking taps into one of the most efficient fuel systems ever engineered inside the human body. As your walk continues, these biochemical processes operate in harmony. Oxygen feeds the mitochondria, enzymes accelerate their work, and fatty acids flow steadily from the bloodstream. This coordination is why walking feels sustainable. You're not relying on quick, explosive fuel. You're tapping into deep reserves designed to support long-lasting activity without fatigue or strain. And while this may seem purely mechanical, it has profound implications for your overall health. Efficient fat oxidation reduces metabolic waste, improves insulin sensitivity, and even influences hormone regulation. This biochemical dance is not just about burning calories, it is about reshaping the way your body manages energy, responds to stress, and maintains longevity. One of the most common misconceptions is that fat melts away or turns into sweat. In reality, the fate of burned fat is far more scientific and fascinating. When fat is oxidized, the carbon atoms that once formed triglycerides bind with oxygen and are exhaled as carbon dioxide. In fact, most of the fat you lose leaves your body through your breath, not your skin. The remaining components, primarily water, are expelled through urine, sweat, and natural metabolic processes. This means fat loss is essentially a chemical conversion, not a physical disappearance. Your fat cells shrink because their stored contents are released and transformed, molecule by molecule, until nothing remains but harmless byproducts. This transformation also affects your body shape. As fat cells shrink, the surrounding tissues reduce inflammation and regain elasticity. This is why consistent walking often leads to visible changes even without intense workouts. You're not just burning calories, you're literally restructuring your body's internal landscape. Understanding where fat goes helps debunk many fitness myths. The truth is simple yet astonishing. You breathe out most of the fat you lose. And the more frequently you sustain activities like walking, the more consistently your body performs this invisible metabolic cleanup. In a way, every step becomes part of a quiet, powerful exhalation of stored energy. Fat cells shrink through repetition. Every day you walk, you request a little energy from them. At first, the effect is small, barely noticeable, but fat cells respond remarkably well to consistency.
Each time they release fatty acids during a walk, they lose a tiny fraction of their stored volume. Over weeks and months, these fractions accumulate, leading to steady, measurable reductions in fat mass. Walking also improves blood flow to adipose tissue. This increased circulation allows hormonal signals to reach fat cells more effectively, making them more responsive to fat-mobilizing enzymes. Think of it as opening a faster communication line between your muscles and your fat stores. The better this connection becomes, the easier it is for your body to access stored energy. Perhaps the most underrated effect of walking is how it alters gene expression inside fat cells. Studies show that regular low-intensity exercise downregulates genes associated with fat storage and upregulates genes involved in fat breakdown and inflammation control. This means your fat cells gradually become less greedy and more cooperative in releasing stored fuel. Over time, this creates a compounding effect. Your body becomes better at using fat, your cells become more responsive, and your metabolic pathways become more efficient. This is the true secret behind long-term fat loss, not intensity, not suffering, but biological consistency. And that's exactly what walking 30 minutes a day delivers. As your walk continues past the 30-minute mark, your brain undergoes a remarkable transformation. Levels of neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine rise gently, creating a sense of clarity and emotional steadiness that feels almost meditative. At the same time, your brain increases blood flow to regions associated with focus and problem solving, making walking one of the simplest ways to enhance cognitive performance. Walking also triggers the release of BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, often called fertilizer for the brain. This molecule helps repair neural connections, supports the growth of new ones, and shields your brain against long-term cognitive decline. It's a biological upgrade happening quietly while your feet move rhythmically beneath you. Hormones that influence appetite and metabolic balance begin recalibrating. Ghrelin, the hunger hormone, tends to stabilize, while leptin sensitivity improves, helping your body recognize fullness more effectively over time. This explains why many people who walk consistently notice more balanced cravings and smoother energy rhythms throughout the day. Chronic inflammation is one of the silent disruptors of health, and walking directly counteracts it. As your muscles move repetitively, they release anti-inflammatory proteins that help calm overactive immune responses. This isn't a short-term effect. These molecular signals accumulate, gradually reducing systemic inflammation throughout the body.
At the same time, your metabolic machinery becomes more refined. Mitochondria operate more efficiently. Enzymes involved in fat oxidation become more active, and your cells learn to manage energy with less waste. Instead of running hot and inefficient, your metabolism shifts into a cleaner, more balanced rhythm that supports long-term weight management. Walking also improves insulin sensitivity, making it easier for your body to handle carbohydrates without storing excess glucose as fat. This metabolic benefit extends far beyond the walk itself. It continues for hours afterward. Over months, the cumulative effect reshapes how your body processes energy at every level, from hormones to cellular pathways. High-intensity workouts burn calories quickly, but they also spike stress hormones and rely heavily on glucose. Walking, on the other hand, keeps your body in a zone where fat is the primary fuel source. This makes it uniquely effective for people seeking long-term fat loss without overwhelming the nervous system or triggering excessive hunger afterward. Another advantage is sustainability. While intense exercise is beneficial, it is more difficult to maintain consistently. Walking, however, fits naturally into daily life. It requires no recovery period, no special equipment, and no mental preparation. This consistency is what transforms metabolic patterns and shrinks fat cells over time. Walking also places minimal stress on the joints, allowing people of nearly all fitness levels to participate without injury.
The gentle, rhythmic movement of the movement supports circulation, lymphatic flow, and muscle endurance, all without exhausting the body. This makes walking a powerful long-term strategy, especially for those aiming for metabolic health rather than short bursts of calorie burn. If you're enjoying this deep dive into how your body transforms, you'll love this next video. What happens when visceral fat finally starts to break down? Science explained. It connects perfectly with what we're discussing, especially if you want to understand what happens inside the body when stubborn fat finally begins to respond. And hey, if this content is helping you learn more about your own health and biology, feel free to support the channel with a super thanks. It means a lot, and it helps us keep bringing science to life in a clear and friendly way. By the time your 30-minute walk ends, you've ignited a cascade of biological processes that continue working long after you stop moving. Fat cells have released stored energy, mitochondria have burned it efficiently, and your hormones and brain chemistry have shifted into a more balanced state. What feels like a simple habit is, in reality, a profound cellular recalibration. With daily repetition, your body becomes more skilled at mobilizing and burning fat, reducing inflammation, and enhancing metabolic flexibility. These adaptations accumulate quietly, reshaping your physiology step by step. Walking becomes more than exercise. It becomes an internal remodel, altering how your body stores energy, processes fuel, and maintains long-term health. The true transformation is not just physical, but systemic. Every organ, every pathway, every cell responds to the signal of movement. And all of it begins with the most accessible action a human can take, placing one foot in front of the other. That is the beauty of walking. Its simplicity hides its extraordinary power. If this video brought you value, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs a simple yet powerful way to transform their health. Your support helps this content reach more people who deserve to understand how their bodies truly work.